Hello and welcome to another tutorial for Excel users. In this video we're going to continue looking at using multiple workbooks. And before I start I'm going to make a few changes to this summary worksheet to differentiate it from the others. I'm going to rename the sheet tab down here to Group Report. And I'm going to use the underscore to separate the word group from the word report, so it's a continuous line of text. And I'm also going to change the colours on the top cell there, the title cell. So I'm going to change the background to a dark green, and I'm going to change the text colour to white. And if I now cycle through the workbooks, you'll see that my summary worksheet stands out as the only one with a dark green background anyway. The next thing I'd like to do is add a comparative store performance report on here, and I'm going to do it very simply by adding some labels down in the F column here. So I'm going to start out by typing the title of my new table, which will be store performance, and I'm going to put the caps lock on and enter the names of the different areas in no particular order. Okay, so I'll do a little bit of formatting here, so I'll merge F4 and G4. And then maybe add a little background colour to that as well, just to make it look not green, about a light blue. There we go, make that stand out a bit more, make it bold as well. And I'll put a grid around all the cells in the table. If I click on the borders button there, choose all borders, and maybe make it bold as well, the whole table. There we are. Okay, so now I need to go and get the figures from the different workbooks. So south, fairly straightforward. I'm going to click into the cell G5, equals on the keyboard, and then Control and Tab until I get to the South workbook. Go to the Summary worksheet and simply select the month to date figure there, which is obviously the final figure for that month. Press the Enter key and that'll pop that into cell G5 for me, and then do the same thing for the other three areas. So equals in North, just scroll through the workbooks until I get to North, click on the Summary worksheet, click on the month total, press the Enter key. So for East it's equals, again just tab through, there's the Summary worksheet, click on the total, and finally West equals again, just tab through until I get to West. And there we have the West total, so press Enter again. So there I have the figures for all my areas, and they're not sorted in any particular order, so I might want to see the best performing store at the top. So simply click in the values, click the Z to A sorting button or sort descending, which will put the highest at the top and the lowest at the bottom, and I can see that North is my best performing store. And if the list was a lot longer, you could maybe use conditional formatting as well, as you've seen before, to highlight the best and worst performers in the list. So we've seen how to get information from other workbooks, and what I'd like to do now is show you what happens when the source workbooks get updated and how that affects this result workbook. So first thing I'm going to do is close all the workbooks. Now if I hold down the Shift key and click on the File menu, you'll see there's an additional option, Close All. And once I see that, I can release the Shift key, click on Close All. It'll ask me if I want to save any changes. Well, I will save changes because obviously I've made some modifications to the summary workbook, and then all the other ones close down. So if I now go to File and choose Open, I'm just going to open one of these workbooks, the North workbook. And let's say we modify the figures here. Now if I go to the Summary worksheet, you can see the value there is 84165. Remember that. And let's say, for the sake of argument, we go back to week 4 and we make a significant change here. Let's say we move Star Wars from 15 to 25, and maybe change a few of those. Wizard of Oz will move to 15, and maybe Citizen Kane to 20, just so we get some higher figures. Now if I go back to the Summary worksheet, you'll see now we have the figure changed to 88930. Okay, so I'm going to save that, close that down, and now we'll open the summary workbook and we'll see what happens. So if I double click on that to open, first thing we get is a dialog box that says this workbook contains links to other data sources. Now this will always appear regardless of whether the other workbooks were updated or not. It's just telling you that there are links to other workbooks and would you like to make any updates. So you have the option of rejecting updates or accepting. Now before I open, I want to show you the figures in the store performance here. We have north at 84165. If I click update, you'll see immediately that north jumps to 88930. So it's updated the values based on that other workbook, even though the other workbook is closed down. And it could even be in some other locations, so it doesn't have to be in the same folder. It could be in another folder. It could even be on another computer on a network. I'm going to demonstrate that in a second. So I'm just going to go and close. Well, what I'll do is if I go to File and Open, I can actually bring up the Explorer window, and I'm going to create a new folder here. And I'm going to call that folder Network. And I'm going to move the North workbook into that network folder. Okay, and then we're going to go into that folder, open the North workbook, and I'm going to modify the figures here again. So if I go to, let's go to week 1 this time, and let's change some of the figures here. Now bear in mind, we had 88930 previously. And if I add some more figures on here to, let's say, boost up the values a bit and come back to summary. So there we see the new value 92785. But if I go to the group summary, you'll see it has not updated because it's looking in the wrong place. And if you look in the formula bar, you'll see it's actually got the full file path. So it's got the computer name, my documents, the tutorial samples folder within that, the multiple workbook series folder, and the file name. But it's looking in the wrong place, so it won't find that update. So what I need to do here is delete this and rebuild the formula. So press equals, just use Control and Tab to switch to that North workbook. Click in the summary total, press enter. So now it's updated to reflect the new location. Okay, now about the way the formula bar shows up the full path, it will do that when the workbook is closed, so it shows the full location. If the workbook is open, it doesn't do that. So at the moment, North is open, and it shows me an abbreviated link, if you like, so it just tells me the name of the workbook and the location. If it's closed, I get not only the name of the workbook and the location, but also the full file path to that location. So if I go back and open up those other 3 workbooks as well, we don't have open, East, South, and West. So open those up. And if we go back to the summary now and look at the formula bar, you'll see it only shows the abbreviated path to the location because the workbooks are open. I'll go through the process of making updates one more time. So if I close the summary workbook, and we'll save the changes I've made so far. So I'll close the North workbook, the South workbook we will modify a little bit, so let's change some of the figures on here. So that goes up in its total value. We'll close that down and we'll save the changes. And we'll make no other changes. Close the other workbooks down. Okay. So if I now open the summary workbook, you'll see I get the standard warning. Would I like to update the data? Let's click on yes, and it does update. I've also got another warning here, and it's saying that it cannot update all the linked workbooks. Okay, so it's telling me I've got a problem. Now if this ever occurs, click on the Edit Links button. Okay, and you will see it will show you all the workbooks that you have linked, or the source of the data for this particular workbook. And it's saying they're all okay, except for this one here. Now the reason for that is that I did not update the column C information. And if you recall, we have in column C information coming from the 4 workbooks, and although I changed the location in the summary table, the store performance table, I didn't change the location in column C, and so I'm getting the opportunity to fix that here. So if I click on the one with the error, and I'm going to click on change source, navigate to where the workbook is, just make sure it's selected, click OK, click close, and that should be done. Now if I click on the C3 cell there, what we should find is the North workbook is in there somewhere, and if you look at the, I know it's a bit tough to see because it's showing all the path names, but if you look at the North workbook, which is the one at the end of row 2 there, it does indeed include the network folder now. So that's now fixed, and obviously it's corrected it for every cell in column C. So that's another way, if somebody does move the location of a workbook, you can fix it using Excel's built-in correction tools. Okay, so that's given you a bit more information about using multiple workbooks. Remember that your workbooks can be stored in any location. They can be linked to from any location. It's not a problem. But remember that if they do get updated and if they do get moved around, you need to keep track of the locations, otherwise your calculations won't work. So thank you for watching this. Hope you found something in there useful, and I'll see you next time.